Good evening. Can I have a motion to move into executive session, to open the meeting? Amber first. A second. Lisa, all in favor? May I take a second motion to enter into executive session for the purpose of legal personnel? Amber first. Bruce, second. 8, all in favor?
Thank you.
The board has returned to executive session and there were no actions taken. Can I have a motion to open the meeting? A first. Bill, second. Lisa, all in favor? Let us all rise for the pledge of allegiance. We'll start the meeting with Mr. Dan Busky recognizing the commended and semi-finalist students in the 2026 National Merit Scholarship Program.
That's too many.
Is that me?
No.
Okay. Good evening, faculty, staff, families, Board of Education, and most importantly to our honored students here this evening. Tonight we are here to recognize a very select group of students and celebrate an achievement that places your names among a select group of scholars nationwide. It truly is my privilege to recognize 9 of our students who have been named National Merit Commended Scholars and 2 who advanced to the semi-finalist level in the National Merit Scholarship Competition. These recognitions are not earned lightly. Each year, and this past year included, more than 1.6 million high school juniors nationwide take the PSAT National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, which serves as the qualification exam for the National Merit Consideration. From that pool, just about 50,000 of the highest scorers nationwide earn program recognition, meaning they're either designated as commended students or as semi-finalists. To be designated as a commended scholar means that you rank roughly among the top 2 to 3% of all students nationwide who took this exam. While commended students do not advance further in the competition, this recognition alone marks you as one of the very strongest academic performers in the country, and you deserve to be recognized for this accomplishment. Even more selected is to be designated as a semi-finalist. Out of the 1.6 million students who took that exam, only about 16,000 students, or roughly the top 1% of each state, reached this stage. From there, semi-finalists must apply to become finalists, and out of that pool, we are informed later in the academic year who has been identified as a finalist. What this means is that this recognition of your accomplishments is no small feat. To have your name associated with these honors is to join a national cohort of scholars whose diligence, intellectual curiosity, and academic discipline over the years, through rigorous courses, exams, projects, and challenges, have truly set you apart. It is my pleasure to introduce you to our 9 commended scholars and 2 semi-finalists. But before we do, please allow me to say this. It's not just your performance on a single test that earned you this moment. It's your sustained excellence over time. Your teachers, your mentors, your community, we've all had the privilege of watching you learn, struggle, refine, and succeed. And tonight, we get to celebrate you. So, Mr. Montserrat, if you want to join me with the certificates, please join me in recognizing our commended scholars, Genevieve Coco, Lena Dagley, Ethan Light, Alex Lombardo, Lynch. Joshua Stinful. Sarah Thatcher. Luke Vaccaro. And Catherine Ziegler. Also joining us, our two semifinalists, Warren Way and Elizabeth Zahn. Thank you, and I hope you will all join me in congratulating these students.
Mom's, Dad, you all got these pictures? Oh, wait.
Each meeting, we hear from students from different buildings about all the wonderful events going on at their locations. As we begin the 25-26 school year, we are pleased to welcome students from the West Side School.
Good evening. I'm Timmy Mullen, the Westside School Student Council President. Thank you for inviting us to speak at this month's Board of Education meeting. Our senior staff is led by me, Brett Goodwin, our Vice President, Lolia Palachi, our School Secretary, and Nora Davis, the Westside School Treasurer. Each month, we have meetings where we meet with Ms. Ryan, Ms. Santora, and elected Student Council homeroom class representatives. We thank Ms. Ryan and Ms. Santora for their leadership and ongoing support.
My name is Brett Goodwin, and I serve as the Vice President. The Westside Student Council generates all of the ideas that we put into action throughout the school year. During our monthly student council meetings, we prioritize the areas of focus based on the initiatives and causes that matter most to our student body. Each class has 2 representatives that play a crucial role in this process. The reps then report back to their homerooms and are tasked with rallying support and school-wide participation. Representatives also bring ideas from their classmates to our meetings. And we also invite students with suggestions to share their thoughts directly. Our goal is to ensure that every voice is heard and that our actions reflect the needs and interests of all students across the entire small but mighty school community at Westside. Our message this year is, let's work together to make a positive impact.
My name is Lilia Palachi and I serve as Student Council Secretary. The Student Council is tasked with promoting and connecting our monthly school-wide themes. We believe these themes help to continuously foster a sense of unity and excitement throughout the school year. This slide shows our 2025-2026 monthly themes we are planning for this year. We can't wait to see how these themes inspire our students and community.
Hi, my name is Nora Davis and I serve as Student Council Treasurer. September is designated as our Set Up for Success month. All community members have a chance to visit the habits and mind needed in order to achieve success. It certainly helped us kick off the year with enthusiasm and focus. We look forward to sharing some of our takeaways from September's Set Up for School Success month, as people at any age can benefit from the reminders.
With Westside turning 236 years old this spring, we also had the thrill of being one of the school's most beloved traditions, the ringing of a schoolhouse bell to commence the school year ahead. Our new school historians, Ms. Santoro and Ms. Ryan, performed a live reenactment of a special visit workers received while constructing the first Westside schoolhouse in the late 1700s. We had George Washington, Ms. Santoro, and his same wig-wearing friend, Ms. Ryan, who shared the story of George Washington helping the workers raise one of the roof rafters while he was traveling from Huntington to Oyster Bay. In addition, we held a special moment of reflection on September 11th, Patriots Day, to honor those who lost their lives on that tragic day in our nation's history. We also were inspired to celebrate the ways in which people came together with courage, kindness, strength, and resolve, especially the first responders, emergency workers, students, and staff wore red, white, and blue as a sign of respect for our country and to honor the important 24th anniversary of 9/11.
As part of our Set Up for Success month, we learned the importance of going to bed on time, using our agenda book and school planner to stay organized, eating a healthy breakfast every morning, coming to school on time, establishing homework routines and rituals, adopting a solid and consistent independent reading schedule to support nightly reading, and limiting distractions in electronics.
Breakfast helps you get ready for the school and gives you energy for the day ahead. A good breakfast should include at least 3 out of 5 food groups: fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, and dairy. It is recommended that people provide themselves with a mix of protein, fiber, and healthy fats. For example, a healthy cereal, milk, and a banana will make a solid breakfast choice and hit a 3 out of 5 goal. When you don't eat a balanced breakfast, you might feel hungry, tired, or grouchy. Eating a healthy breakfast after getting a good night's sleep can help people have an awesome day. Breakfast gives you energy, helps you grow strong, and keeps your brain ready to learn. If you eat sugary foods, you might get a stomachache or sugar high, followed by a crash. But if you choose healthy food, you're choosing to take good care of your body and setting yourself up for success.
We learned and reviewed the importance of sleep. Sleep is very important because it affects your mood, helps repair injuries, fights off illnesses, kills bacteria, and does many other amazing things. Sleep helps you focus on your school the next day and can even affect your overall happiness levels. Before bed, a cozy bedtime routine helps you relax and get a good night's rest. Doing the same nighttime routine every night tells your brain it's time for sleep. Getting enough sleep helps your memory, build strength, and recharge your brain while you rest. The next time you want to stay up late, remember that sleep refreshes your brain and gets you ready for the next day. Our student council, the Board of Education, and district administrators are ready to get a good night of sleep after an evening board meeting, because the culture of our kids and district-wide community needs you all to be at your personal best. Being sleep deprived can impact that from occur.
In September, we learned about how to limit distractions that could get in the way of us being successful. In a kid-friendly video, we watched a boy named Lucas kept getting distracted by his electronics. He always said, just one more round. It became harder and harder for him to stop playing, and soon all he could think about were his games instead of his responsibilities like cleaning his bedroom and taking care of his schoolwork. In the video, Lucas found himself on a path that represented focus. Eventually, when he learned to slow down, take his time, he reached the treasure of focus. Lucas learned to set a schedule, homework first, then 5 minutes of a game or a small treat. With his mom's help, he stayed on track, got his work done faster, and still had fun. This story teaches kids how to stay focused and stay accountable, work towards better habits and grades.
September was also a time for connection during our school's 4th year of participating in Sandy Hook's Promise Start with a Love Week, a national initiative aimed at fostering new friendships and creating a sense of belonging among the youth. We kicked off the week with an inspiring assembly led by Dr. Barnes and Miss Latham. To encourage new friendships, students spent the week learning about sparking conversations, building connections, and developing their hello style. Through small, big, or giant actions, students can help out their peers simply by being empathetic and inclusive. We love engaging in various hello activities and projects, and love the videos we watch promoting kindness and community. On Wednesday, we wore green to symbolize our collective unity. We conclude the week with a kindness chain, wrote letters to our teachers expressing our appreciation, and enjoyed book readings and other fun activities. When in doubt, start with love.
We took a moment to honor our beloved member of the West Side Committee, Miss Hattie Astor, who passed away 10 years ago. Her legacy continues to inspire us all to commemorate her memory. Students and faculty who wore bright colors and tie-dyed shirts celebrating the joy and warmth she brought to our school. Miss Astor's spirit lives on the hearts of those who knew her, and we are grateful to Miss Latham for teaching us about Miss Astor and learning about the impact she had made for our school committee.
We joined forces to stomp out bullying, Blue Shirt Day, and to help kick off October's Bullying Prevention Month. We continue to identify what bullying is, the types of bullying that students are confronted with, and ways for students to report bullying safely. The big theme of the month is to encourage students to serve as upstanders instead of bystanders through this month. We will continue to remember that it only takes one person to spark a change for the better. We can all impact a culture of kindness, being empathetic, inclusive, and accepting.
We held our first meeting of the school year. It was a productive session filled with exciting ideas and collaborative discussions. After thoughtful deliberation, the council unanimously decided to launch a fundraiser to save St. John's Pond. We're thrilled to contribute this important cause. Students will get creative and showcase their artistic talents by creating Halloween-themed dioramas. Each entry will help raise funds. We can't wait to see all the student body's creativity shine for a great cause.
Student Council will be selling bracelets on October 23rd to October 24th in support of breast cancer. We are happy to support the Susan G. Komen Foundation in this worthy cause. Bassett School will also go pink on October 24th.
Thank you for allowing us to present in this evening. We are happy to open the floor to field any questions, comments, or inquiries you may have. Your feedback and engagement are greatly appreciated. Thank you so much.
I especially loved your suggestion about getting to bed early tonight and how important sleep is. It's one of my favorite suggestions we've gotten. Does anybody have any questions?
You guys you're doing a fundraiser to help save St. John's Pond.
Yeah.
What's wrong with it?
I think it's kind of, I don't know exactly what's wrong, but I think the water is kind of like there's not as much. It's kind of eroding, and it's just a really important part for like the Cold Spring Harbor. And it's like when it freezes over, people skate on it, and it's really nice to have the view when you're driving by. But I think it's kind of just eroding. But you know, I think it should be good to have there, save it. You know.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
I just wanted to tell you that was an excellent presentation. You all did a great job. There was so much detail, and it seems like you all get having a great time at Westside. So great to see.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Can you guys share what your favorite part about being an elected official is?
Yeah, I'll go first. My favorite part of being an elected official is how you get to showcase your ideas while being with Miss Ryan and Miss Santora, awesome teachers. And how anyone's idea is a good idea there, and how it's very accepting, and it's just a fun place to be in.
I agree with Timmy. Like everybody's ideas are accepted, and I love just working together with everybody.
My favorite part about being an elected official is probably just getting to work with different kids and being able to just practice stuff and yeah.
I like it because I get to be with my friends Becca and Nora, and it's fun and it's funny. And Timmy. And it's it's nice to hang out with Central and Brian.
Oh, I love it when I hear.
Also, it's not everyone gets to do it, so it's kind of just special being student council.
That is.
Thank you very much for sharing.
Karen, take a picture. Dr. Barnes' pencils. Where's our pencil? We're about to. Thank you.
Moving on to my president's report. Good evening. I hope everyone enjoyed the Columbus Day weekend despite the rainy and windy weather. Congratulations again to our National Merit Scholarship semifinalists and commended students. It's a pleasure to see them recognized this evening for their outstanding achievement. It also is my pleasure to extend our congratulations to Dylan Savarese, who has been selected by her peers to serve as our first ex officio student board member. Ex officio student board members serve a one-year term, attending public meetings to share student perspectives and act as a liaison between the student body and the board. Although Dylan is unable to join us this evening, we look forward to welcoming her at our next meeting. This evening's agenda includes 3 presentations. First, R.S. Abrams, our external auditors, will present a review of the 2024-2025 external audit. Next, Kim Libertini, our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum, will share a data presentation that includes information on Regents, AP, and grades 3 through 8 assessment results. Finally, we will hear updates on progress towards our board goals, which were established at our August meeting. These updates will be presented by Kim Libertini, Brian Taylor, our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, and Jeanette Alamia, our Director of Guidance. Progress updates will be provided periodically throughout the year to highlight the ongoing efforts of our administrators and staff as they work to advance and achieve our board goals. We are also looking forward to a spirited homecoming week, culminating in what promises to be a wonderful celebration of school pride. I wish all of our athletes the very best in their upcoming games and matches, and I look forward to joining our community in celebrating their accomplishments. On a personal note, I will be attending my Cold Spring Harbor 25th High School reunion next weekend. So this month in particular, I find myself filled with school and Seahawk pride. Joe, now I officially turn the meeting over to you for your report.
Thank you, Heather. Good evening, members of the Board of Education, students, staff, families, members of our community. Welcome to our October 17th Board of Education meeting. It has been an incredibly busy and exciting month across Cold Spring Harbor Schools. One filled with community spirit, academic achievement, creativity, and compassion. First, I want to highlight that homecoming is just around the corner this Friday, October 17th. Festivities begin at 5 p.m. at the junior senior high school fields and will feature backyard games, a petting zoo, DJ, face painting, tattoos, and a dunk tank with yours truly and Mr. Dan Buskey taking turns in the tank. Sure to be a great evening for families, students, and alumni to come together and celebrate our community. I'm just hoping for warm water in the tank. Throughout the past month, our schools have been busy with activity. At Goosewood Primary School, students participated in Fire Safety Week, where members of the Cold Spring Harbor Fire Department provided lessons on fire prevention and gave students a chance to explore a real fire truck. Our Pink Aid Games brought together the girls' field hockey team, swim, and tennis teams to raise awareness for funds for breast cancer research and support. A powerful example of students combining athletic competition with meaningful support. We proudly recognize our National Merit semifinalists and commended students this evening. 25 talented students were inducted into the Triumph Music Society, honoring their commitment to music, performance, and leadership in the arts last week. Our school participated in World Day of Bullying Prevention, reinforcing our district-wide commitment to kindness, respect, and inclusion. Students in our leadership classes organized donation drives to support children in need, reflecting a generous spirit of our student body. And of course, the beloved annual Turtle Visit, the light of the youngest ones at Goose Hill, a tradition that brings smiles and curiosity every single week. This fall also marks the rollout of our new math program, Illustrative Mathematics, which places student thinking, discussion, and problem solving at the heart of every lesson. Teachers and students alike are embracing the shift towards deeper mathematical reasoning and collaborating and learning. From academic innovation to community engagement, it has been full of inspiring month across the Cold Spring Harbor School. I look forward to sharing even more good news as the year continues. Next week, on Tuesday, October 21st, we will hold our first work session of the year. This session is dedicated to the budget process and transparency. All are welcome to attend the meeting at the boardroom and district office starting at 7:30 p.m. And on Friday, October 24th, Cold Spring Harbor will be hosting a civics panel at Nassau Community College titled Civics Through Normandy. At the event, the current seniors who attended the Normandy trip last spring will provide a perspective on the trip and learning through experiences. Then the students and staff will answer questions from the audience. This is going to be an amazing event for students to share what they learned in Normandy. And also, we just learned this afternoon, 3 students were awarded the Town of Huntington Hispanic Task Force Scholarship. Sonny Bruzella, Chrisissa Ramirez, and Zara Ventura will be honored tomorrow night for this award starting at 7 p.m. at Walworth High School. Congratulations to them. They're being honored by the just got. So thank you everyone and have a great evening.
This is time for the first discussion, discussion.
Discussions.
first discussion section of our agenda.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask about, as you know, we have New York has a new full ban on electronics in the learning environment, and we've had a policy already for a year prior to that against cell phones, so I was interested in how compliance is going and how people are adjusting and any challenges we're facing.
I mean, so far, we had, as of the 9th, which was last week, was the 25th day of school at the junior senior high school, we had 73 instances where cell phones were seized and were taken away, brought to the main office, and this came to 39 unique instances. So on average, about 3 per day, which I don't think we should get overall. I know I was one of them. I was walking out one day. The student thought I did turn away, and I turned back, so I saw his eye, and back home. Overall, I think it is pretty good. Our students, I definitely see lots of conversations in the hall. You're going to see tonight for Board Recognition Week. We have students. I'll let them speak. I don't want to give it away. Mrs. Dembusky, do you want to add anything to the conversation about what you see in the building?
So I think, as Mr. Woolman said, the fact that we had a little bit of a head start on this compared to the rest of New York State certainly gives us a leg up in this. You know, I definitely think compared to this point last year, we are seeing less infractions. When we look at the infractions, we don't look at just the sheer number. Our focus really is try to identify recidivism, kids who are repeat offenders. And by and large, when we drill down into that data, we have less than 10 students who have been repeat offenders. All 10 of those students are currently on what's called administrative hold, which means that when they come in the morning, that we hold their phones for them. We have a safe in the main office that we take the phones and we lock them up in the main office and return them to them at the end of the day. The typical administrative probation period where we do that is 2 weeks where they turn in their device, and if they are caught from this point forward after, their phone will be held until a parent comes to get it. By and large, when we break down by grade level, 9th and 10th graders predominantly are being caught because either they forgot the yarn pouch or they're self-reporting that they forgot their yarn pouch. By and large, our administrative hold is concentrated among 11th and 12th graders. And then the use of phones in the class and hallway really has been minimal compared to the two. You know, grade 9 the most frequently among our forgotten pouches. Grade 10 and 11 is a blend of forgotten pouches and inappropriate use. In grade 12, most of our administrative holds are 12th grade students, which you think about a program, they spent 4 years in this school where phones were acceptable and accessible, and then in their junior year, the phones are no longer accessible and acceptable. So it certainly is an adjustment, but good to see that in the students who entered the school with this rule, and now that it's a statewide ban, that there are less and less infractions in those grade levels. So we think about that longitudinally and what that will look like in 4 years in terms of overall compliance. Certainly, myself, the assistant principals are constantly looking at the list for compliance infractions and identifying if we need to have any elevated tiered interventions for any of our repeat offenders.
One more question, Mr. Dembusky. Has there been issues with other devices like smartwatches? I know kids sometimes like to.
Yeah, so the vast majority of students, I mean, we have compliant students. So the vast majority of students, if they have their smartwatch on, a staff member tells them to take your watch off. You know, we often see them coming either to the security desk to unlock their pouch and put the smartwatch in there. With respect to other devices, we've had 3 instances where MacBooks have been addressed, and by and large, is either the teacher taking the MacBook away and bringing it to the office, or the teacher, directing the student. One was a teacher who directed the student not to take the MacBook out, and in the very next period, the same student took the MacBook out, and that teacher walked down the device to Mrs. Lemons.
I think the parent has to pick it up. Like, how is that? Is it the same as the cell phone?
So if it becomes a repeat offense, that's the type of thing where we would ask the parent to come pick it up because it obviously warrants a deeper conversation. But out of all the infractions, we literally had 3 that the devices other than computer, other than phones. Yeah.
What does that mean they took the MacBook out?
Well, it means different things in different classes. I know, for example, the actual state law and our board policy says the only acceptable use of any internet-capable device is the school-issued Chromebook. So teachers are enforcing that. If they see it, they'll redirect the students. If it's an issue and it comes out again, they confiscate the device.
Right, I want to point out to the board that our policy states that even the mere display of the device is a violation of the policy. So a child can have their MacBook in their backpack. They can pull their MacBook out to get their calculator at the bottom of their backpack, and the teacher can confiscate that MacBook, and the administration has no problem with that. So,
I thought that's what you wanted though, right? Didn't you want that to be used?
the display of it, no, the use,
Yeah.
the use, no, to take it out and use it, we don't want that. Although the administration,
What if what you wanted the yonder pouch, it's the same thing.
no, this is not the phone, this is a MacBook. Say,
This is an electronic device, it's under the same law.
When I had said off and away for phones, that wasn't enough. So how is it different with I don't understand, with the computer that's off and away, it's different than the phone?
no, that's what I'm asking, are we okay with, say your calculator's at the bottom of your backpack, you slide your MacBook out to get your calculator, and just the mere appearance of that,
But what if your phone's off in your backpack?
if your phone is off?
It's turned off, it's powered down in your backpack and the teacher sees it, is that different to you than a Mac? I'm just wondering because,
If the phone, I don't follow you.
what do you mean you don't follow? If you have your phone and it's not in your yonder pouch, but it's shut down in your backpack,
Right.
is that different to you?
If it's in the backpack,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be in the yonder.
Yeah, but so the MacBook's supposed to be at home.
It doesn't say you can't be in possession of it, so you can't display it.
Okay, so MacBooks are fine to you, but not the phones. I'm just trying to understand, because
Yeah, I'm trying to-
I felt like kids should just be responsible for keeping things off and away, and I'm just trying to understand what the nuance is here.
The nuance is if your calculator is at the bottom of your backpack, and you pull your MacBook out to get your calculator, the mere display of that is a violation of the policy. We're trying to,
But you're not supposed to have MacBooks in school, right?
I don't know, is that the
I
policy?
think under the state policy, you're not supposed to, right?
During the course of the school day, the
Yeah.
only approved internet-capable device is a Chromebook or another device issued by the school district.
For use or possession? Because there's a lot of kids that bring MacBooks to school. I don't know if you're missing that, but there's a lot of kids that have MacBooks.
But I think they should, they're away. It becomes more of a challenge for a teacher to, were they using it, did they just have it out, was it flipped open? It should be away.
I think some kids are allowed, depending on their IEP.
Sure.
Other than that, I don't think they're supposed to have them. They have a lot of the same capabilities as a phone.
Right, I could see you taking it out, but if you're reaching for a calculator and the mere sight of it,
You have the rule or you don't, like, I think it's across the board, like, they see Mr. Montero just said he saw a phone in the hallway and just take it. I don't think the kid is necessarily using it.
I don't know, we had it out.
I know the phones are supposed to be in yonders, and actually,
When you're teaching a class and you have a lot of students in front of you, juggling and
And I mean,
Sounds like some, maybe,
that sounds,
offense
That
too.
seems like a very specific incident, right? As opposed to
I'm just
like
saying that's the
parent
policy.
to school, not a whole board level discussion.
I guess it's, you know.
I mean, I interpret it as a teacher who's getting prepared to do a teacher lesson, who may already be engaged in teaching lesson, is not going to stop instructional time to conduct an investigation as to whether or not a device is being used. The message that was delivered to the staff at the beginning of the school year was, as this state law changed, that the only internet-capable device permitted in school is a school-issued device.
okay, so there's been 3 MacBook confiscations, I think you said?
Yes.
So there's virtually no MacBook possession except for an IEP then at the school, because there's not a lot of, doesn't sound like there's a lot of confiscations. They're easy to see, they're not in yonders in the big. So that's interesting, okay. And then,
Can I add to the
Oh, yeah.
cell phone?
one thing. We discussed last year the possibility, because a lot of kids like to use MacBooks, we discussed it blocking, and there is software that allows the district to block apps on a MacBook. Is that something we just decided not to do, or I know it was going to be looked into?
I think the challenge comes into that a student can turn on their phone to use as a hotspot, and we have no control whatsoever about what they're viewing and doing. If they're using their Chrome device that we give them, it's blocked on the device. So when they're using their own personal device on their own personal Wi-Fi, we have zero control.
Okay, so that's
That's
not
why
being looked at.
we can't,
already.
because we can't do anything about it.
Very good. All right, so I guess no MacBook savings then really, right?
To my knowledge, when the teacher sees it, they confiscate it, they bring it to the office.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
Can the kids get Gmail on the Chromebooks?
They have a school account, which is fairly restricted for obvious reasons, because we don't want inappropriate things sent to students once your name gets out there and it's shared. So students can email within our domain a very limited amount of outside email.
Right, but things like College Board, registering for.
We whitelist certain things, allow them to do that.
But they make you use a non-school account.
But it's a Gmail account.
Yeah.
So she's saying, can you use like your personal email at school?
Oh, no.
No.
Sorry.
Personal email is blocked.
Right, okay, so the kids can't do any of like the College Board stuff in school. Okay.
Correct.
If they can
I mean, they can
log
log
on,
into their
Lisa,
account.
they can log into their account, they just can't receive the.
They would have to do that after school.
Okay, all right, that's helpful.
No,
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And remember, this ban is K-12. I reached out to the principals, really not much comes still. There were a few smartwatch instances at the West Side at the beginning of the school year, but they seem to be taken care of after a quick discussion. And really, personal devices was never much of a big deal there anyway. So it seems to be going pretty smoothly. Thank you.
Anyone have any discussion?
Yeah, I was told we have to discuss this in public. So the letters we've been sending to the community regarding, for example, the paperless option, it was called a survey. Is that a survey we're seeing what parents wanted, or is that the actual letter that will determine whether they get paper or not?
It was them selecting will they rather receive paper or electronic communications.
So that is the
Determination.
That is, okay. And it was called a survey. I was hoping we could maybe change the outreach to talk about really what we're trying to accomplish would be to save money and to talk about how much we spend on mailings, talk about the environmental impact of not mailing things of that nature, and talking about some things need to be mailed, but we wrote a letter that called it a survey, and it didn't really even go into the benefits of doing that way. And I'm wondering, even with the facilities letter, we kind of wrote a general letter rather than asking for specific skill sets. And the feedback is we have to, as a board, like, write these or change them, and I don't understand.
What's wrong with them?
So I think if we send out, like, we're doing a survey of the electronics, we're going paperless versus saying the district is offering an option to parents due to the cost of mailing, the environmental impact, and give you the option to go paperless or not, instead of calling a survey. Like, there are some people that were like, what exactly does this mean? We did get a response, but a survey indicates you're trying to get like a poll versus an indication of permanent switching.
So do you want it to be called like opt-in, opt-out, something like that. I think that makes sense. To your point, like I might ignore it because I personally wouldn't ignore a survey.
I appreciate it.
Feedback, but one might ignore.
Right, I appreciate it.
Yes, I agree.
And even on the facilities, when we call out for specific skill sets, we have so many people in this community. And if you have a background in following areas, and we write these generic letters, and I feel like we can do a better job at them. And when the point is raised, nothing gets done. And
Well, I think it used to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, people who've been on this board a long time, but, which is relative, because we're all relatively new board members, but you know what I mean? I think we used to, any email that came out that was like from a board initiative, like a mailing or like a board level committee, was usually sent to the board for review before it went out. Does that seem right? Some things that came out of discussion like that weren't just sent out, just to make sure that, just like in any big meeting, that everything that was really said is reflected in the
Right, but you can't have everything on email, because there's a lot of taxpayers that are not signed up for email.
No,
Or
I'm not
the-
saying put everything on an email. What I was saying is before emails are sent out, like the email saying, do you want to have,
Oh, emails too.
do you want to have an email or no, emails that come from the board that say, from a board meeting, we've decided we may or may not, like, if you'd like to not receive mail, opt out here. The email itself, the body of the email from the board was sent to the board for review before being sent to the community. Same with the board committee. And then actually the committee, in addition to the letter, the committee was contacted without the board signing off on that this time too. So I think there needs to be more, when something comes out of a board discussion and is reflective of a board initiative, perhaps the board needs, and what we used to do, I think, is say, you have, 24 hours, whatever it is, just to keep things timely. And then we had multiple discussions about this actually at one point. And if something was really, really time sensitive, the superintendent would send a text and say, I'm about to send out this email or this letter, please call me. Yeah, but so these couple of things, I think Mark brings up a really good point, which is they came out of board discussions and then in really good intention, the emails or messages were sent out to families, but there could have been like one more word or sentence added in that would be more reflective of what came out in the meeting. It would have taken maybe a minute for somebody to flag.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've gotten, we used to do that more frequently.
Yeah, if we're
I
going to
think it's a
spend
good idea.
8 hours at these meetings, we may as well spend another 2 minutes on it, right? Right, Nicole? Yeah. I have a discussion item, which is, if we're comfortable moving on to another discussion, I think that's better. Okay. So I just a quick one regarding the required music in junior high. And I'd like to stipulate first that I was in both the chorus and madrigal in the high school. But if you are a child who is taking chorus as an optional class in the junior, or as a required class in the junior, senior high, you're also required to go to additional music lessons, which could be during instructional time, during your lunchtime, during time where you're getting extra help in other classes. And I'm just not sure why this is a requirement at that level. I think once you've opted in and you are highly committed to chorus, then of course it could be a requirement for higher level chorus students, or it could be optional in the junior, senior high school. It doesn't make sense to me as we're trying to get these kids to mastery in subjects, and if they're enjoying singing but don't have the bandwidth to also take all of a sudden accelerated science and perhaps an accelerated math, and they've just stepped up academically and they're coming out of elementary school, and now we're give up time to do extra singing when singing necessarily wasn't even your choice, it was just what fit into your schedule. It just doesn't seem, it's not making sense.
I'm sorry, so is this new, this is not new,
It's-
it's in the last few years, because I've never heard of it.
Yes, that's correct, because I don't believe I don't know, actually, my older, I don't think there's even a state requirement, Lisa, for our older kids to take music in junior high.
So it's
For an art.
It's not just the 7th and 8th grade, it's also 4th, 5th, and 6th that falls with instructional time, for orchestra band.
I have to say, I'm not sure about the elementary. It's junior high here at the elementary. Chris, John?
Band and it's band and orchestra, yes. And then if someone's participating in like another organization for singing, but not additional.
Right, if they're doing like NISMA or something, then sure, go to the extra lesson, but I just think, if you've got a kid who's just trying to stay afloat academically in 7th and 8th grade, and then you're getting zeros on your progress report because you're missing a chorus lesson, seems like we're putting extra pressure unnecessarily on kids who are already academically anxious. And listen, I think singing is a great stress reliever. Again, I'd love to go and sing. But I just think this is something that should be looked at, because certainly, we're not saying in other areas that they have to go do small group instruction. I honestly, I'd rather have extra small group instruction in something else if that's what the time is going to be spent on. But otherwise, I want my child going to extra help, or maybe like eating a proper lunch.
Alex, can you explain this to me?
So I can try. I really honestly
And what
feel like
grade
it
is
only
it?
came to my attention.
I think,
Yeah.
like I said, we can look into, I can find out
Yeah.
what grades exactly and how often might be better than surmising. I don't
Okay,
know
yeah,
if
that's
I'm
fair.
the
That's
right-
fair.
Like you said, we'll take a look to
I
see.
do know it isn't, and I'm not speaking for every kid, it isn't added stress. I know my daughter is in the band and she loves it. She takes it very seriously, but so she has a band period. That's on her schedule. But then she also has to miss a certain class to go to like a small group band. And it's something that just puts them over the edge sometimes. If they miss.
So it's like missing like biology regents to go to a chorus lesson.
I understand that for band and for orchestra, maybe they need to have the small group instruction, but for chorus,
Well, if you're a serious singer, I think you actually probably should be having the extra instruction, but I'm just saying for kids who are taking these as
yet there are students who are taking chorus because they're not
a required,
musically inclined, but they're required to.
and then their lessons are actually scheduled during their school day by their, like alto
Yeah.
soprano, and then it could be literally during your biology regents 8th grade class.
Right, because we don't even offer like a non-musical music class anymore. Right? So they have to take chorus, they have to take chorus.
I thought they could take a music theory class.
No, they didn't.
That's
When did that start?
Music theory, right?
So that must have started recently as well.
It's,
Yeah.
And my understanding is that that's pretty demanding, is that correct? The music theory, but it can be tricky, I think.
maybe.
And then do they so they have to go to school early in 5th and 6th grade, right? So their parents driving them to school early, but then they're still getting pulled out.
Right. That's right, at the elementary school level.
But just for orchestra.
Is it coordinated that they're not pulled out during math in LA? So they could be pulled out during math to go to a band lesson in 5th and 6th grade?
They work to rotate the lessons through, but it does hit different content areas.
That being said, I think they once looked at, if they are pulled and there's something pressing with core instruction, at the elementary school, us being smaller, there is flexibility in terms of making sure that they're not missing the big math test review. And I think it happens
helpful. I know I saw an email today that a makeup for missing a class that was, I think, during bio regions would be during math and external. So it's like two really bad times to miss for junior high.
Okay, we'll pull the data. Yeah, when it was started.
Can we go to another topic or? I don't know if it's here or later, but Joe, can you give us a quick update on wet lab progress?
Yes, so we have out an RFP, so last week, Wednesday, Thursday, I forget exactly, the equipment, the tanks and all the lights and all the parts and everything came in, was delivered, and we have an RFP due Friday, Joe, for vendors to do the final put together of cutting the glass and installing everything, and then we were hoping at the work session, it would be 2 work days later, appoint the person who would then do the work to finalize putting everything together.
So, how long does that translate into the finished product?
We're hoping for that. In speaking to some of the vendors, they look like they're kind of open to do the work. So I don't want to guarantee, we have to see who puts everything in, but I would say within a couple of weeks, we'll be ready to go with everything installed.
Thank you.
And then that's everything, electric, everything's done?
The electric is done, the racks are in, the electric has been installed, run the whole 9 yards, and it would just be the finalization of the tanks and
Excellent.
which is, there's always maintenance on these things. This is one of these, like, every day, the people from Southampton said, every day something breaks. It's the nature of the beast, but everything should be in a couple weeks.
Bill, do you have anything else?
No,
The last thing I had was, I just would like to get kind of a report on allowances that have been taken by job, because I know we got some numbers. I'm not sure it captures, does that capture every trade by every job? Do you know if that report kind of seemed to be difficult to follow?
So that report showed every allowance, I believe, going back to 2012, that received either money back not used or money used since that time period. It indicated the project number, location, and who the vendor was.
Because like I was just trying to find even like the bathroom at West Side, which would be simple, and I don't see it broken down to like the 4 trades. I was trying to see like, say, on a job, on each allowance, what was taken, what was returned. I don't think it has that specificity. Because I wanted to try to figure out how often allowances were taken, what percent of the allowances were taken.
When you say percent, you say how many dollar amounts, say we had $50,000 in allowance and $5,000 10% of the allowance.
Yeah, if we had like, just simple, 100,000 in total allowances and 50,000 were taken, 50%, you know. I wanted to see the percent of allowances taken, because we just did an exercise and kind of learned about the likelihood of allowance to get taken. I want to see if we're in the ballpark of the norms.
I would say we talked about this sort of anecdotally without data over the past year or so, and I thought we were told in one meeting that these are not normally predated. And so I think we're trying to understand like why all of a sudden there's, or whether it's true that now we're getting a lot of allowances returned, which is a good thing, but I think it raises the question about, well, what was happening prior to a year or so ago? Were we losing all the allowances? And so I think we just need a comprehensive report that shows by year, like, okay, nothing was returned up through 2023, and then we got a lot back, and maybe there's a good reason for that, or maybe that's not happening at all, and we're just told something incorrectly.
Allowance money coming back is typically when it happens when the job is closed. So I think that is, we've been closing work on the last bond, so that's why we can see.
I think what Bill, but I remember I asked Joe Dragone at the last meeting if it was typical to see such large amounts coming back in all his years, and he said no.
So,
Right, it
So I heard, just to get the,
sure. So,
I'm kind of looking for that too. So if you want to see, like, just say in the last 10 years, each year, how much we got back, because it could
Right.
possibly be zero,
Right.
zero, 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 and then
Right,
100,000.
and Mr. Montestero raised a good point. We did a lot of work on 2019. We also do a lot of work every year, and it doesn't mean that I would think it would be zero returns. So I think we'd just like to see data and sort of put this to bed one way or the other.
so we take every allowance taken or money coming back, the job and percentage of the total allowance taken. I just want to make sure I have everything.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Right, if you have, like, a job and each allowance was 5,000 and all the allowances were taken at 5,000, that's almost mathematically impossible. And if that happened multiple times, then something doesn't add up. Because the allowance, as they said, when, you know, meeting, it's for something unexpected. It's just to keep the work going. So you have to have 4 instances where the work was unexpected and it each cost the same amount for all the allowances to be taken to the dollar of the full allowance. Seems very unlikely.
Could we ask to see the last 10 years?
Yeah, I think we just need to recode information you sent. It's just a different way of arranging it. And maybe adding the percentage of the total dollar taken.
And what's the difference? I know you explained it, but the difference between an allowance and a change order, they're kind of interchangeable, it seems, but they're not. Because an allowance is a change order, but then change orders are also if the allowance is exceeded.
I'm going to ask Joe D. to answer that, because that goes to his office.
So, any Joe can answer this question, but the difference is that an allowance is a pot of money that is set aside specifically and built into the contract that's granted to each trade. So, somebody gets $1 million contract, and built into that $1 million is a $50,000 allowance. A change order is always made whenever there's going to be a change in either the dollar amount or the time at which the project will be completed. So it's either dollar change or time change. That's a change order. The confusion, which I understand completely, is that sometimes a change order is done without changing the total value of the contract because the allowance covers the additional cost. So you still have $1 million contract, but instead of having a $50,000 allowance, you now had an additional $5,000 worth of work done, and now you have $45,000 allowance. What happens sometimes is that the allowance is exhausted and additional work still needs to be done. That's a change order that goes to the board to say, can we please increase the contract beyond the $1 million that we originally anticipated because of this condition or that request, etc. But in either case, whether the money is coming out of the allowance or the money is coming out of the capital fund to increase the contract, it's a change.
Well, wouldn't it also be a change order if the project was the same amount of money, but decided to put the money and use it somewhere else?
I'm sorry, say that one more time?
You know what I'm saying?
I think you cut off either your.
So if we, I'm just saying, if we said we were going to spend $1 million on bathroom, on air conditioning,
like we did one of the bathrooms, and then they told us the change order was for boiler work, and they did the
Right.
bathrooms anyway.
So, but that's what I'm saying, but it's, so you didn't include that. Okay, so you gave me the details, but what I'm saying is that is considered a change order, but you didn't explain that.
Yeah, it's, that's a whole different problem. The problem is that
But it still needs to be approved by the board.
if the
Is that
contract
something
holds
different?
for the installation of boilers, and the money was instead used to install bathrooms, that is an inappropriate use of money. That's not what the board authorized, that's not what the contract called for. Yes, is it possible that during the course of the project, the architect, construction manager, director of the
But I just want to be clear that that did happen.
Yes, I know, and I'm saying to you out front, it's wrong.
So on the 50K in your scenario, if they do dip into the allowances, does the board have to approve that at some point?
Yes, sir, and in my world, yes, I would bring that as a change order to the board, saying that we're gonna cover this change order by using allowance money.
Not your world. So if we go back 10 years and we look and all the allowances were taken every time to the max, did those eventually go before the board and get voted on?
I can't say that more because I wasn't here.
Right, that report that home went through board agendas. That's how they found those different items by going through board agendas as was approved by the board.
I guess the question is what information was given to the board when they were voting on it, right? Like, so, all right, we'll get the information, go from there. It's just something I just want to make sure we're learning from,
I know you're very cool.
getting raised. Okay, thank you.
Great. And on to our section on focus on teaching. First, we're starting with the school board recognition.
Yes, we have Ms. Kristen Blundell is going to come up and say some words, and then we're going to play a video.
Hi. Dear members, can you guys hear me? Dear members of the Board of Education, my name is Kristen Blundell, and I'm honored to serve as the Central Parent Council Chair for the 25-26 school year. I have a fourth grade daughter at Westside and a son who just started kindergarten at Castel. On behalf of our community, I would like to express share a special video created with the help of our building principals, Ms. Oswald and Mr. Montestero, along with the students from all of our schools. This video expresses the heartfelt appreciation for all the improvements over the past year made possible by the board. Thank you to everyone who contributed to making this project possible. Yay!
Thank you for the air conditioning. Our lunch is nice and cool. Thank you for the fans and keeps us nice and safe. It keeps us safe. Thank you. We love our band teachers. Thank you. Thanks for fixing the playground. Thank you. Yeah, because they're really fantastic. I love having teachers.
It means double the help.
And double the fun. Two is better than one. Together is better. We love having two teachers. Thank you for keeping us safe all day. Thank you for keeping us safe.
Hi, I'm Olivia Ketter. I'm a senior, and I just want to thank you so much for the college and guidance prep that you have given me and my grade. I think I've been a lot more informed in the college process, so thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Brody Ray. I'm also a senior, and I really appreciate the Seal of Civic Readiness because I've always had a huge interest in history, and many of my other classmates also, and this gives us a chance to progress that further.
Hello, Board of Education. Thank you so much for letting the Art and National Honor Society travel at Disney. We really appreciate it, and we're going to have a great time performing. Thank you.
Much to the Board of Education for giving us the opportunity to go to Disney. So much to the Board of Education for providing us with amazing guidance counselors that help us with our journey through high school and provide us with new opportunities every day.
I'd like to thank the board for offering these speech spaces when they continue to class. Very fun.
I'd also like to thank the board for the amazing courses I have, like art, and the opportunities I get from the Disney trip.
All the courses provide new opportunities for students to explore their interests.
And I'd like to thank the board for all the new teaching courses that are available.
Hello, I'd like to thank the board for the new traffic light because I find when my mom's picking me up from school and taking me home, it's much faster at the end of the day to go home.
I find that this traffic light due to the board is very significant increase in getting in and out of school very quickly. It's a lot easier for me to feel more confident about my driving skills as a youth driver.
One.
I'm excited to take marine bio.
Thank the board for the new classrooms that give us new fun classes like EDP.
I also want to thank the board for the STEAM classes because all of the hands-on activities that you can do and stuff like cooking and building stuff are very fun.
How has the STEAM approach helped your learning?
It helps us think about problems more.
and I'm a senior here at Clifton Harbor. I just wanted to really thank you, the board, for the security that we have here. It makes me feel really safe. As you can see, there's a cool security card that, patrols everyone coming in and out. Last year I had an incident with an Uber Eats driver, and the school handled it very well, and it made me feel really safe in the building and very professional. Thank you. I want to thank the security at our school. They make sure to keep our school safe. They like to check IDs every morning and make sure that all students that are coming in here are part of the school. Thank you so much to the Board of Education for providing us with top-notch security guards that ensure our safety. Thank you, Board of Education, for our new student wing.
Thank you for allowing us to move freely between spaces.
Thank you for allowing us to be creative.
Thank you for allowing us to collaborate.
Thank you for allowing us to grow.
Thank you for allowing us to participate in culture.
Thank you for expanding our technology knowledge.
I like STEAM because it's very fun and it let you be creative.
I like STEAM because it creates a fun and colorful mindset.
I like STEAM because it's really fun to build stuff and create.
My name is Lester Benish. I'm a senior here, and they're going to tell you what they're thankful for.
From the board.
I'm thankful for all the teachers that we have in the school and how nice and fair they are.
I'm thankful for the students and the teachers and the snacks.
Hi, my name is Rachel Brown. I'm a senior, and I'm thankful for the Board of Education for them putting in the traffic light at the exit of the school because it allows me to get out of school quicker when I need to go get something for my game that I have forgotten or just get home quicker in general. Thank you.
So much to the Board of Education for providing the traffic light. Thank you for the parents and the parents to say goodbye.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see you. I got the call this year by the Board of Education. The traffic light makes exiting the school safer and more efficient. Thank you so much, Board of Education, for improving our school today.
I'm grateful for the underpatches because when we didn't have the underpatches, no one got to socialize and didn't get to talk. But now that we have them, everyone's talking and socializing, and it's very good for the environment.
I'm grateful for the yellow pouches because it helps kids socialize instead of just being on their phones in the hallways. And it also helps them detach themselves from their phones, losing a habit.
That was really special. It's nice to see these students. That's why you do this, and it really brings it back to the I'm really excited everyone wants traffic lights. And when my dad first brought it up 15 years ago, he's like, the kids are gonna love the traffic light. I'm so glad that they did it. Finally. Yes, everyone loves the traffic light, as they say. All right. So thank you for that, and I guess we will move forward for the presentation of the audit report by RSP.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Brendan Nelson. I'm a partner at RS Abrams. We are the district's current independent external auditors. So we did just recently complete the district's financial statement audit for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. I do want to preface this brief summary I'm about to give. We did meet with the audit committee back on September 30th. We discussed the audit reports in detail and answered any questions they may have had. As part of the audit, there are 4 total documents that are being issued, just as any other previous year. You have the basic financial statements of the district. You have a separate standalone financial statement for the extra classroom activity clubs of the district. That is a separate standalone report that we are required to issue in accordance with the New York State Education Department. And then there are 2 communication letters that we issue each year, one being the management letter and another one being referred to as the governance letter. So again, we like to start with the opinions. What are the ultimate opinions that our firm is providing on both sets of your financial statements? The district is receiving what's referred to as unmodified opinions. This is essentially what's referred to as a clean opinion. So what that means is that throughout the course of our auditing procedures, we did not identify anything that would have prevented us from issuing such an opinion. So again, unmodified opinions on both sets of those financial statements. Essentially the best opinions you can get as a local government or a school district here in New York State. We do want to also point out the management letter is where we would identify and report to the board and to management any issues, findings, or general areas of recommendation that we may have come across as it relates to the district's internal controls over financial reporting. We are happy to report that there were no deficiencies or weaknesses identified, so the district is receiving a clean management letter. No sightings noted there. In terms of the district's general fund balance, their unassigned fund balance, this is what's referred to as your rainy day savings. It's basically everything that's left over that hasn't been assigned, restricted, or committed for any other purpose. This is limited, this unassigned fund balance is limited here in New York State under real property tax law to 4% of your next year's total budget. So as of June 30th, 25, the district did finish the year with $3.28 million in that unassigned fund balance classification, which is exactly 4% of the 25-26 total budget. We typically like to point this out. This is typically a good fiscal indicator of a district that's in a strong financial position, that has a strong balance sheet, and are able to maintain that 4% unassigned. Overall, we do want to point out the books and records were in great shape for us to come in. The audit was able to move forward efficiently, timely, and effectively. We do want to thank Joe Drago and his team in the business office for all their hard work and cooperation throughout the audit. So overall, in summary, this is a strong audit report. Again, no findings, no recommendations of note included in the management letter. So overall, this is an audit report that the board and the district can be proud of. If anyone has any questions or comments, I'd be more than happy to talk to you all.
I thank you for that. Are there any areas that we should consider doing differently in the district?
There was nothing that came out throughout the course of our audit. We had findings in the past, which the district has been diligent to address. So the most common things we see relate to the tracking and monitoring of capital asset additions, and then obviously IT security is a huge area right now as well, so that's something we're always looking at. But again, from a financial statement audit perspective, we're required to gain an understanding of your internal controls. We're not digging nearly as deeply as your internal auditors would, where they're going in and picking specific areas to do full deep dives in. So again, we're gaining an understanding as we're required to do under our auditing standards, but we're more focused on the books, the general ledger, and the actual financial statement.
Thank you. Do you look at the future funding of our pension obligations as well? Is that part of the report?
There is a supplemental schedule in the financials that shows a 10-year look back on what all of your pension required contributions have been, but nothing prospective to the future.
So we've contributed appropriately in the past?
You have required contribution amounts that are set by New York State for both pension systems, so yes, you've been contributing those amounts.
Are we over contributing or contributing to the minimum?
There are set percentages, so for your employees' retirement system, depending on each employee's by tier, you have a specific required percentage that you have to contribute based on total salaries for employees in each tier. TRS is just one blanket rate that you contribute for total TRS salaries for the year. So there's really no over contributing, under contributing. The rates are set. You have to contribute those amounts.
So there's no forward-looking analysis to see if we have a pension time bomb down the road?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
So to give some context there, for the two pension systems, the employees' retirement system, as of the most recent valuation that they've had from their external auditors, they contract with their own actuary. The ERS pension system is currently looked at as being underfunded, so every participating district in New York State is picking up their proportionate share of what's called a net pension liability because it's looked at as being underfunded, whereas TRS this year, due to the investment returns on their portfolio, ERS was actually a net pension asset, so it was looked at as being overfunded. So you as a district picked up your proportionate share of that net pension asset.
Questions? Thank you so much.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Everyone have a great night.
Thank you.
So right along to the presentation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kim Libertini, and I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction. And I'm actually pleased to share with you a lot of the data that came out of our New York State assessments in the year of 2025. I will be joined later to conduct the rest of the presentation by Daniel Dambuski, the junior senior high school principal. So when we look at the 3 through 8 ELA, one of the things that we chose to do was really present on mastery levels, and we felt this was important since the board goal this year is focused on teaching to mastery. On the very left-hand column, you'll see the grade levels, and then immediately after, you'll see the 2025 scores. Anything that has been flagged with a green flag shows a growth or an area where we have exceeded our numbers from 2024, and anything with a red flag is an area where we saw a decrease. I want to point out that if you look at grades 7 and 8, we saw an odd bloom that did not correlate with the trend that we had seen over time for both grades 7 and 8. So if you start looking back prior to COVID, if you look at 2018 and 2019, we saw numbers like 18%, 27, 36, and it had stayed steady at 37%. And then all of a sudden in 2024, we saw an increase of 56%. So it was an odd number that we saw. But that odd number actually presented itself across Long Island and around New York State. So we were trending along the same lines with everyone else. And then when we look at grades 7 and 8, you'll see these numbers. We took a deeper dive later in the presentation just to explore what was going on with our test results there. I always like to take a look at what's happening across a cohort, and so it's really important if you look, grade 3, obviously in grade 2 they don't take an assessment, but if we follow the cohort, we look at in 2024, that cohort earned a 26%, and then in 2025, a grade 4 cohort now is following them the following year, earned a 39%. It's always really, really important when we look at cohort data to recognize the fact that although the group of students did not change, marginally there might be a few in or out, but they didn't change, but the test itself does, right? And the content changes, and the level of difficulty can also change. And so it's not apples to apples when we're doing that comparison, but we are trying to look to see whether or not we're seeing some trends are things that we can kind of examine and do a deeper dive, and also to take a look at whether or not we're seeing some gaps that may be traveling across from one grade to the next, and that's really important to us. So anywhere that you see a black flag, that's an area where we've held steady, and anywhere where you see a green flag, you can see that there's growth. So these numbers in ELA mastery level raised by cohort really show that we're holding strong, and in fact we're improving. So as you remember, I talked a little bit about the grade 7 ELA score breakdown and the fact that it looked like we had seen a decrease in that particular year. So anytime we look at that, we want to examine where are we in relation to our region. And so in comparison to the Suffolk County region grade 7 that took the same exam, right, when you look at our numbers, what's really remarkable is if you look on the left-hand side where you have your level 1s and level 2s, the blue represents Cold Spring Harbor. And if you notice, our goal on the left-hand side for level 1 or level 2 is that we want to see small numbers. We want to be less than the region, and that's indeed what we see. If you notice our level 1s, we had 3%, right, and the Suffolk County region grade average was 30%. If you look to the right for level 3s and 4s, we want to see the blue line above the red, meaning we're striving to have more level 3s and level 4s than the region. And indeed, that is what we see at 36% for Cold Spring Harbor level 3 and 39% in level 4. A remarkable 39% when the regional average is 22%. So you can see a significant difference in how Cold Spring Harbor is scoring. But anytime that we look at regional comparisons and we look at data and trends where our numbers are dropping compared to the prior year, we want to identify through GAP and WASA reports what it is that we can do better, right? Because we're always looking to tweak and make refinements to improve our programming. So one of the things that we saw was that our students historically have struggled with reading informational text. In this particular test, they need to improve on analyzing how individuals, events, and ideas are introduced and how they relate to each other and then are developed over time in a passage. They need to evaluate the development of an argument and specific claims in a text. And we'll actually see this trend on evaluating arguments and claims across multiple grade levels as well as in multiple subject areas. So in the grade 8, that same cohort that we saw a decrease in 2025 as compared to 2024, you will see that same trend happened on level 1s and level 2s. Again, just a reminder, we want to see the blue line, which represents Cold Spring Harbor's grade 8. We want to see lower numbers than our red bars, right, which represent the Suffolk County region grade 8. And on the right-hand side of the graph in level 3s and level 4s, we want our blue line to be above the Suffolk County averages, and indeed that is what we were. And again, what is remarkable is that on level 4s, we had 55% mastery, where the Suffolk County region grade 8 averages were at 19%. But when we did a deep dive into the data, one of the things that we saw, always looking for areas of growth, was that we should really look to evaluate an argument and specific claims in text. We need to help our students choose and develop criteria in order to evaluate the quality of text. And in literary text, we want them to analyze how the differences between the point of view, perspectives of the characters, the audience, or the reader create effects such as mood and tone. And what we know is that mood and tone and recognizing those in literary text can be a challenge for students. So that brings us to math. In our 3 through 8 math mastery level 4, rates by grade level, what you'll notice is, again, that the green flags represent areas where we've seen growth, and the red flags represent areas where we saw a decrease. And I really want to draw your attention to the grade 8 because that is our non-accelerated cohort. If you notice, I put our cohort size was an N of 39. So it's our smallest cohort and it's non-accelerated. And the reason for that is we have a large majority of our students that accelerate in grade 8 to take Algebra 1, so they are not part of this group. So if you look at, again, the trends here, what we'll see is in grade 7 math score breakdown, we see that the blue bar representing our Cold Spring Harbor grade 7, the red representing our Suffolk region, on the left-hand side in level 1s and level 2s, with the Suffolk County average for level 1 at 47%, Cold Spring Harbor had 3%. So even though we saw decreases at mastery level in Cold Spring Harbor, and just a reminder, mastery is level 4, okay, what we saw is that overall Cold Spring Harbor's numbers on level 2s were very, very low, and as well as level 1s. And we saw our level 3s take a huge spike at 56%, and our level 4s at 33%. And when we look at the data and we look at areas where we could stand for to bolster or to grow, we can focus on using properties of operations to generate equivalent expressions, solve real-life and mathematical problems using numerical and algebraic expressions, equations, and inequalities, and draw and construct and describe geometrical figures and describe the relationships between them. And in our Postman-Carver Grade 8 Math Score breakdown, you will see that in 2025, our numbers on level 1s and level 2s, again, were substantially lower than the regional comparison, and then our level 3 and level 4s were much higher. We want to focus on our students being able to analyze and solve linear equations and pairs of simultaneous linear equations, to understand the connections between proportional relationships, lines, and linear equations, and to define, evaluate, and compare functions. Relationships between a set of inputs and outputs tends to be an area where they struggle. And again, our math mastery rates at level 4 are rates by cohort. Then we're tracking the cohort to see whether or not we're seeing a dip in a cohort. So in grade 5, we saw a dip from 48% to 42%. But again, we're seeing this odd boom in 2024 in the test, where in 2023, that same cohort, right, earns a 24%. So there was a significant growth in that cohort from 2024. The grade 8 class of 2029, again, we look at this data, but the N is so small that any slight changes can really alter what our overall percentages are. We did see a dip from 66% to 33%. So what was interesting is I wanted to take a look at what our proficiency comparisons were in both of these areas. And if you see for our regional comparison, so our green bar represents Lily Harbor, our light blue bar represents West Side School, our dark blue bar represents the whole district combined, and the black bar represents Suffolk County, and the yellow or gold bar represents Nassau County. So if you notice, like our regional comparison, like across the district, we hover around 90%, which is fantastic. And then if you look at us compared to the rest of the region for our proficiency levels, right, which is the level 3s and 4s combined, you'll see that we outshine the rest of the region, both island-wide. So if you look at 2025 for our math grade 8, and remember this is again our small cohort, but of that small cohort, and those are our non-accelerated group, you'll notice that they are operating at level 3 and 4s at 91% mastery or proficiency level, and Suffolk County's average was 32%, and Nassau County was 53%. So we have a lot to be proud of. So in science, we don't have the large look back in data, because if you remember, in 2024, that was the first year that the grade 5 science test was launched in New York State. So what I did was I did a comparison between 2024 data and 2025 to examine whether or not we're seeing growth. And when we look at the comparison for proficiency, what you'll see is the district average of 60% proficiency in 2024 increased to 73% in 2025. So again, we're seeing growth, and in the second year of a science assessment, an assessment that saw a complete reconstruction of the way science was offered in this assessment. This is also a digital assessment where students are being given multiple sets of data, and they're forced to analyze those data, extrapolate, and make claims and provide evidence. I really feel like we're seeing remarkable growth, and we've taken a lot of steps to address the development of science across the district. For example, this year we increased the total block scheduling in science, so that the science is now embedded in the regular classroom. That was something that's relatively new. We're seeing that grade 3 and 4 teachers are teaching science in the curricular day. One of the other things that I just want to remind you of that's unique to the grade 5 science test is it is a test that covers 3 grade levels, and the test occurs in grade 5. So the students themselves are studying science in grades 3, 4, and 5 across that band, and the only time we see an assessment is in grade 5. Whereas in the math and the ELA, they receive an assessment each year. So that's important, right, for us to adjust to. And then the next thing that we're doing is, the students are being exposed to more 2D and 3D assessments, more that style and look like what the terminal assessment is in the grade 5 science test. And that's a lot of work that we've been doing around the district through professional development. So the screen doesn't look like it's showing some of the other data that's here, but although it's not here, it may be in your printout, but when we look at, when we examine the multiple choice and the constructive response and the overall district averages, and what we see in the multiple choice and the constructive response is it really is constructive response that give our students the most difficulty. That when we look at the multiple choice, our students are well above the norms and the averages across the region. And when we look at the constructive response, although we still sit well above where the other region is, the overall results are still low and there's an area for growth. So what that tells us is that our students really struggle in using language to describe the science that's actually happening in the classroom. And that is because the subject area is vocabulary rich, because we're exposing them to this language across a 3-year band, because we're asking them to extrapolate. So that goes back to what I talked about in ELA and reading informational text and finding evidence to support claims or developing claims. It's still a skill and it's transcending across not just our ELA block, across the mathematics and science, where our students, the writing, the constructing arguments based on evidence is something that we really need to work on. And that's not unique to Cold Spring Harbor. It's a trend that we're seeing across the nation. It's something that all districts, no matter where they are really focused on. And it's about writing about what you see, right, engaging in argument, right, about evidence, and providing discourse, right, about all of the things that are going on in the world. And that transcends across all subject areas, not just science, but we're really focusing, right, on the writing tasks.
Can I ask a question? Sure. So, it was 2 years ago we hired a C coach, and I see that we improved in our ELA master grades 6. We've also seen our math levels 6, but we just recently hired a math coach, not a full-time position. I was just interested in hearing your thoughts on the interplay having that position in schools.
Sure. So, I mean, I think, one of the things that we're looking at for a board of goal is teaching to mastery, right? And I think, some of the things that have been done with regards to coaching is coupling coaching with professional development. And I would recommend always to decouple coaching and professional development for a couple reasons. One is we have a lot of initiatives going on in the district, a lot, right? And one of the goals of the coaching model, right, is not only to implement some of the new initiatives that are happening and ongoing, but also to bridge the gap between what the data is saying and provide tailored instruction to our students using a small group model, right? So coaches go into classrooms to guide teachers, to connect with what the data is saying about students, and to make sure that in our classroom, right, not in our additional academic intervention services, but in our regular education classrooms, that we're differentiating, right? And what that differentiation should look like, and when specific strategies should be applied, and how specific combinations of strategies should be applied to meet the needs of the students within the group. And those changes and shifts, right, are really important when we're looking to shift, right, and move the needle, just even in these small tweaks that we're looking for. When we look at these exemplary scores, and we're still looking to reach, right, and grow, right, our students, and move our level 3s to a level 4, that coaching model really supports that work. Additionally, one of the things that I want to remind everyone is a lot of the training that took place when we brought in some of these new programs, right, and we added these professional developers, has all occurred over the past couple of years. We've done an enormous amount of hiring across the district, right? So now you have this new incoming, and we look forward 5 years from now, we're going to continue to be hiring. So now you have these new incoming teachers that have not necessarily been exposed to that training. So what the coach does now is that they recognize what our modeling is, right, and they model after those new teachers to make sure that they're continuing, right, with what it is that we believe are the best strategies to meet the needs of our students in that particular cohort, in that year, based on the data that we're seeing. And that's really, really important. And so, I strongly believe in the coaching model, and I think that, we need to advocate, to have coaches to help us to do that work. And the coach, often picks up where the AIS coordinator leaves off, right? So you have this AIS coordinator, they're collecting data, they're doing testing, they're managing, benchmarks across time, and then they're taking a look at that data, and then they also hand it over to the classroom teacher. The classroom teacher in their curricular day have multiple other things that are going on. And so it's the coach's job to come in and say, look, this is the data that we have. Let me see what it is that you're teaching to these particular students, and let's see what it is that we can implement to make sure that we strengthen our programming.
Can I also say that the work we do in down to math and science also, because everything, all the assessments are so reading-based nowadays. If you remember at the end of last year, there was some debate in certain districts about the new agencies in biology and earth science, and everyone said how it is a reading exam. Concepts you need to be able to interpret the information and then write it out clearly. I think we're going to continue to see a lot of benefit from writing across all subjects. Math is obviously very specific to math, science specific to science data, but reading is helping everything.
Absolutely, and I kind of alluded to that as I was doing the presentation, that, students when they're reading informational text, right, they're struggling writing about it and providing and finding the evidence inside the information, and that's occurring in the data and the evidence that is sitting in science and is sitting in mathematics equally as it is in ELA. And so the literacy coach helping students to mine through some of the reading challenges, and so that was one of the biggest complaints from all of the educators in the field of science that implemented the life science biology exam this year, as well as the earth and space science that came new at the next gen standards. Right, it was reading intensive, it was vocabulary rich, and the students were struggling mining through even what the data was telling them before they even got to the question. Right, so if we can give those students those skills and continue to harness those skills over time, right, we're going to give them a leg up and an advantage when they face these assessments at the high school level, which in turn will connect to my next presentation, right, which is the board life goals of teaching to mastery, right, and mastery teaching and learning. So at this point, I'm going to hand the floor over to Dan Dombeski, who's going to talk a little bit about the high school teaching.
I just had some questions.
Oh, sure.
So, I'll try to keep it short. Our comparator is the Suffolk region. Now, we're doing this on a geographical basis. As a scientist, comparator on mean everything when you're looking at data. So, I guess on that basis, we don't know whether the Suffolk pool is a weak pool or not. So we can look like all-stars, but we're comparing ourselves on a geographic basis. Is that the best way in your mind to look at this data, or should we be comparing it on a different basis, or there's no way to do that?
So right now, when I look at the 2025 data, you will see that I did pull wherever it was possible the NASWA data, which I think is a stronger pool, which is why I put it there when we had availability for that NASWA data. One of the things that I would say is, NASWA and Suffolk County are the leaders in the state. Comparing us to the state average is actually, the graph would be even more remarkable than what it already looks like, so to be honest. But Nassau and Suffolk County are known, Long Island is a leader, right, in education in all of these areas. But Suffolk County would be the stronger of the two, so whenever possible, I pull that Suffolk County data. In terms of the state averages for New York State, for many of the new assessments, they haven't released all of that yet, but as soon as we do, we can look. My guess is that we're substantially above what the state data is.
Mark, the past few years, we've asked the superintendent of curriculum to show us the data from the comparative school districts, which we compare ourselves to. So that's information that you have to say because it believes that. So that's, comes later.
Okay.
We have access to this stuff.
So what I can also say is that as a leader in the field, whether it's science or math or any of these things, we have conversations with district level coordinators, and so we do talk to the leading districts. It's not data that I put up together for this particular presentation, but we were a leader in the pack of all of these scores. There was nothing that looked like an anomaly where we fell substantially short in any of these areas. So there was nothing that I was concerned about with regards to when I had the conversations with some of the districts that we'll talk about in the next presentation.
And then most of these are below 50 on an absolute basis for mastery. Is that,
Mastery is the highest level that you can possibly get.
But what's our goal? I'm not saying there should be 78, I'm just saying what's a great number for us to achieve? I mean, some are at 32, some ones at 55. What should we strive to do realistically in the district to achieve?
I mean, I think we're right there. I mean, we're talking about small tweaks. Of course, everyone would shoot for, 50% mastery, but, from year to year, from cohort to cohort, it may be slightly different. I think we're hovering right around what would be considered stellar. So, there are small and minor tweaks that we might want to make in specific grade levels at certain topics and key skills. But I don't think that there's anything here, concerning. And, I think there are numbers that are, we're well above in most areas. And when we think about proficiency, there's no concerns at all.
But when would we get the data when we compare ourselves to other districts that we're trying to benchmark ourselves against?
It's usually around December when all of that gets released, so, we wouldn't have that right now. It's pretty early for that. I mean, the data was just on embargo in early October, so we don't have that, and other districts aren't reporting on our scores equally, so.
All right, very
Yeah.
good.
I just wanted to say I loved seeing it this way. This was really, really helpful. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So as Kim said, if you remember the last couple of years we've done this presentation, we went kind of test by test and showed those scatter plots where we compared ourselves, almost item analysis to the region in Suffolk County. Having done this now a couple of years, we decided to shift the format, obviously looking at everything through that lens of mastery, but then really kind of taking a little bit of a contextual understanding of what we do with the data when we receive it. When we look at Regents examinations and we look at mastery trends in the Regents examination, two things worth pointing out. I know when you first look at it, it might look like ELA was a dip, but as a reminder, we did offer the ELA Regents to a select cohort of students in January, so you really add the January and June numbers together. And the January and June numbers total 95% of our students achieving mastery. In fact, on the ELA Regents, I believe the average score was an 87, so the average score was above what the state benchmarks for mastery. Areas that we have been looking at, global history last year in the fourth year of its new framework, and U.S. history in the third year. What we use with that data when we see those numbers and we want to see those numbers grow, we dive into what the reports tell us, which is in global history, unresolved global conflict, 1914 to 1945, decolonization and modernization versus tradition, and the Cold War were areas that our students struggled. In U.S. history, the post-Civil War area, 1865 through 1900, industrialization and urbanization, the rise of American power, and the Cold War era are all areas that our students struggle with. So when we look at recommendations, now that we have this data, what we sit down and we work on with our staff, we focus our interventions on mastery teaching, on specific content standards, and historical thinking skills where these gaps identify, right? So we always look at it, performance gaps, where do our students not do as well as we would like them, and opportunity gaps, where do our students do well, but they can still do a little bit better. And really what the focus is on with the staff is prioritizing scaffolding of complex multi-part and essay-style questions, especially where students struggle to connect the content across themes. And that's a problem that we've now seen on repeated examinations. So that is an area that we are specifically addressing in our professional learning. When we go through, you'll see a lot more colors on this slide. And I'll explain what some of those colors are. So you see Algebra 1 flagged in 2024, Geometry flagged in 2025, and Life Science Biology flagged in 2025. Those were the first years of the new administrations in accordance with Next Generation Learning Standards. And obviously the one that stands out the most is Life Science Biology. When we overall look at the region, a very small number of students region-wide. The number escapes me, but I think I'm somewhere in the range of 4,000 students across Suffolk County took the Life Sciences Biology examination. 90% of our students passed it, 11% mastered. Now, when we look at the 11% mastery, we need to understand why 11% mastery when we're 90% passing. And there's a number of factors that go into that. Perhaps the single biggest factor is the structure of the examination and having never seen it. A transition year where our staff has never seen what the state examination will look like
can cause tremendous test anxiety. It can cause problems for our students as they sit down and try to answer each question. And what I mean by that is you have specific data sets that you now need to use to answer groupings of 6, 7, 8 questions. And some of those have 3 and 4 answers to each question. And you need to get all 3 and 4 correct in order to get full credit on the question. So it's truly a different type of examination that our students would be taking. When we talk about it, we talk about the shift to the new standards, particularly in the life sciences biology. A transition year shows an assessment date. That's not uncommon. That is something we could probably go back every single time the state has updated a curriculum or a state examination. You can see that in that transition year, you find an assessment date. And it's not necessarily because student learning has weakened. It's because the bar has shifted. And the bar on how they're being assessed or what they're being assessed on is what's shifted. The mastery rate overall remains relatively strong in a year when the state changed what is measured and how it's measured. Right? That was a big adjustment. And just to give a little bit of context with that, we offered the Regents Review courses over the summer, and I thank the board for their support in approving our staff members to come in over the summer to offer this. We had 13 students who either failed or wanted to improve their score for the biology Regents examination. Out of those 13 students who attended the review sessions, 11 of them either improved their score or passed the exam. So we saw a tremendous, right, even just at one time, having seen the exam, the comfort level with the type of questions that they were going to be asking. And really a huge benefit for them now, because many of those students are now moving into the Earth and Space Science exam, which is in its first year here for us in Cold Spring Harbor. So when we dive into specifically the biology exam, and I don't want to spend too much time about one exam, but obviously when anybody looks at this, that's the one number that's going to stand out because they're going to see the 11% mastery. So we look at the different conceptual areas that are covered on the 2025 biology exam. That is the first that was based fully on next generation learning standards. So matter and energy in organisms and ecosystems, our mastery trend was mixed. We range between 25% and 79% on those questions. Our inheritance and variation of traits, 64 to 80% relatively strong mastery on recall-based items, but we did see a dip on application-based items. So that's obviously an area of data that allows us to go back and work with our teachers on targeted professional learning. We talk about structure and function, relatively moderate to strong mastery rates, hovering around 70%. We talk about the interdependent relationships in ecosystems, a highly variable area, so it's an important conversation for us to have with all of the teachers who taught the course. We saw mastery rates between 19 and 81%. So let's sit down and go through item analysis and find out the 81%, how did they receive this material? How was it constructed? Do we have that horizontal alignment between the individual classrooms that are teaching these concepts? Our natural selection evolution unit, very strong, around 70 to 80% mastery on those. And our engineering and design application, relatively strong, between 60 and 85% mastery. So when we talk about taking the 2025 life sciences biology, we talk about mastery in terms of mastery teaching being a concept and a depth of understanding, not necessarily a score. The score is a nice byproduct on that examination, but truly when we talk about teaching to mastery, we're talking about ensuring students can apply what they have learned in new and complex situations. And that's what those data sets are pushing the students to do. They're pushing the students to take the information that might seem completely unrelated and be able to apply them in a different scenario. And as our teachers have had a chance to dive into that a little bit more, we're obviously refining the way that material is delivered. We also just want to keep in mind, when we talk about teaching to mastery, our goal always is centered on the student. And when we talk about centering on the student, we talk about mastering concepts, we're talking about retaining concepts, we're talking about connecting those concepts across disciplines, which if we look at some of our weaknesses on other content areas, what might seem completely unrelated, STEM constructed responses and essay writing in the humanities, they are directly connected because as Mr. Montecero pointed out, they are extremely reading intensive prompts and they require the students to take a tremendous amount of background information and connect them across the content areas. So when we talk about it, we're not talking, well, yes, the test score is a great byproduct and example of mastery learning. We're talking about emphasizing it's not about necessarily just chasing a higher test score, We want it to be about deepening the learning for every student. We want teachers to feel confident that every student in their class has mastered that content before they move on, not just move along in order to tick off a box and say we got through the curriculum. Because if we change that approach and we make that the focus, the natural byproduct of that is you will see test scores naturally rise. So we dive into our AP exams. And again, I will start by saying, I know the lens is through mastery, but I would be remiss and I would be, inaccurate if I didn't say I was tremendously proud of the instructional staff based on last year's results. 86% of our students who took AP exams scored 3s or higher, which is the highest percentage of 3s and higher in over a decade. And I think that is a testament to the work that goes on every single day in our classes. There were some traditional some intentional shifts that we made that I'll dive a little bit into as we go a little bit further. But when we look at mastery rates for AP exams, we have always presented this data with respect to how we do 3 and higher. So when we talk about mastery, the numbers might look a little lower, but we are talking specifically about all of our students who score 4 or 5. And in actuality, the mastery rates that you see on this slide and the ensuing slide, there is a tremendous amount that we should be proud of as a school community. When we talk about exceeding national mastery scores, so exceeding 4s and 5s across the United States of America, Physics 1, Physics C Mechanics, Art History, AP Lang, AP Lit, AP World History, AP Human Geography, AP Macroeconomics, AP Research, AP Seminar, AP Computer Science Principles, AP Computer Science A, AP Pre-Calculus, AP Calculus AB, and AP Calculus BC. In every single one of those exams, we exceed the national average of 4s and 5s in our school community, which we are a school community with a limited number of students, and we are producing results like that. So that is a testament to the work that is done on a daily basis. And when we look at the national mastery rates, the areas where we are, I'll say, negligible with the national average, in AP Chemistry, we're talking about a 3 percentage point difference. In AP US Government Politics, a 1 percentage point difference. AP US History, a 3 percentage point difference. And in AP Psychology, a 2 percentage point difference. Now, that's not to say we don't identify patterns and we don't identify performance gaps and we don't identify opportunity gaps. We absolutely do. But when we look at these numbers, we want to focus on how can we shift from the 2s and the 3s to the 3s and the 4s. How can we bring those students, the 86% of our students who took an exam this year and scored 3 or higher, what worked well for them? How do we take that 3 or higher and we make that a 4, or we make that a 5 for those students? I will say, already having the conversations with Mrs. Libertini about our AP collegial circles, which our staff have found incredibly beneficial, given the space and time for our staff to engage in this work with professionals from across the region, across Long Island, and it's really a great opportunity. An area that I want to highlight is AP Biology. And AP Biology is one that we've talked about over the last couple of years in terms of our performance and our performance slipping. If you look at our AP Biology scores, you will notice tremendous growth. 91% of our students scored 3s or higher on AP Biology. That is a targeted intervention that was made with the hopes of improving student outcomes. And I will say is, even though the overall district cohort was low, we only had 1 section of AP Biology last year, the results were fantastic. So what do? We focus on those 3s and those 4s. How do we get them to move up? This year we're back up to 2 sections of AP Biology. So, we see that ebb and flow in the number of sections from time to time. And I want to point out that tremendous credit to the instructional staff member, first year teaching the course, and she produced results like that. Massive compliments for the instructional staff member, Mrs. Walcott, who was able to take this and really bring it to the next level. When we look at AP Biology, and let's just take a step back from not only our performance at 91% of our students scoring 3s or higher on this, when we compare that to the national average, the New York average, 73% of New York scores 73% scores 3 or higher, and when we talk about across the globe, 70%. So 93%, 23% shift, right? A plus 23 change in our AP Biology results, which is part of the reason why I wanted to put that out there. AP Physics 1. AP Physics 1, The AP Physics and AP Statistics national trends, those numbers are low. Mastery rate in AP Physics and AP Statistics across the United States of America, it is clearly evident that this is a concept that our students in this country struggle with. AP Physics 1, 84% of our students scored 3s or higher on the exam. 79% in New York and 67% across the globe. So again, something we want to highlight. AP World History. If we look at AP World History, we see a tremendous increase in the number of students performing at level 4. The reason that's important is not only to celebrate the work that's done in world history, the reason that's important is because, hey, how did you get those students from 3 to 4? And how can we magnify that and repeat that in other content areas? How can we do that in U.S. history? How can we do that in European history? They follow a similar format in the exam, so what did our students do so well in world history that we can replicate in other content areas within humanities? Again, we look at AP World History, we're talking about 86.7% of our students scored a 3 or higher. That's compared to 72% in the state of New York and just 64% across the country. When we look at our math scores, AP Calculus, AB, again, we see a really nice bell curve here where we see on the left-hand side we are lower and on the right-hand side we are far higher. If you look at our 5s, AP Calculus, AB, compared to ourselves in years past, it's tremendously more impactful, right? Our students have achieved tremendously in this course over the last couple of years. And again, comparing to national and global and New York State averages, well above. AP Language Composition, I feel like we talk about AP Language and AP Literature every year. How do we not? When we look at the performance of our students in these areas, very low numbers in the zeros in the 1s, very low numbers in the 2s, and massive numbers in the 3s, the 4s, and the 5s. In fact, 97.3% of the students who took this exam scored 3s or higher. That's compared to 74% in the state of New York and 74% globally. So, all great things to celebrate. Not saying there aren't areas that we need to identify, and those conversations have already started, and some of the ways that we identify that is we target specifically what courses we want to see our AP collegial circles bringing in staff members, what areas we want to see our educators learning from other educators who are teaching the same material. But again, I would be remiss if I didn't point out some of the strength in the performance of our students last year. No. And then Ms. Lambertini can correct me if I'm wrong. The remainder of the presentation dives deeper into proficiency numbers, but that is there for an informational purpose for sharing with the public.
I have a question. So my question is about the progression of when you take certain classes, honors classes, as you progress through high school. Do you follow a similar format to other schools on Long Island for what we do for history? Or is that taken at, for an example, is that taken in a different grade?
For the most part, with the schools that we always like to kind of cluster ourselves with and look, we follow a very similar pattern. I will say, world history and European history, I have seen interchanged, and I think I talked about European in previous year's presentations. I do know some schools will not offer AP European in 10th grade. They will push that off, and they will offer it in your 11th or 12th grade as a truly elective course for students who are passionate just about the European history component. But for the most part, for the schools that we like to cluster ourselves with, we follow a similar trajectory.
Thank you.
You mentioned possibly learning from, or you used the example of AP World. Do you have an example of something you've learned already, or is this prospective, something you have to look into about what made this successful?
Again, that is purely contextual explanation of why we do the data dives that we do, and the data dives that we do are not meant to be done just to give a presentation, right? Those data dives now drive down to staff meetings, they drive to department meetings, they sit down with teachers who go over the instructional planning reports that they get from the College Board, where they can see where their students perform very well, and then it's giving the staff members the time and the space to engage in that work. And, you know, Dr. Andrews, AP World History teacher, your students did really well here. How'd you do it? How did you teach that? Did you do something outside the box? Did you try something different? Right? I mean, we're talking about test results, so we are talking about something with tremendous independent variables for students, right? But we still can identify practices that have been done in the classroom that may have impacted.
Can I ask a more pointed question? Do you have any information or feeling about like the amount of either in-class prep or outside class prep that goes in? And I know different teachers have different approaches. math and science departments spend a lot of time prepping for things like the AP. Have you seen correlations about that?
I wouldn't say direct correlations, all of our teachers do AP prep, right? I know last year there were some departments that had much more of a presence in the 2-hour after-school AP preps, but there are some of our strongest results this year were not necessarily courses that had those 2-hour outside the school day AP preps, right? So that's a little bit of a reflection on the structure of that classroom over the course of the entire year, understanding that the work you're doing longitudinally is to prepare you for this exam, while not necessarily focusing just on review sessions after school.
Can I also add that in ELA and social studies, many of the AP exams are also preparatory regions at the same time. And they're independent, so they're doing 2 courses. And they're just really doing the AP exam. So it is a unique situation to prep for.
I would also like to congratulate Mr. Schneider, who was our AP Physics 1 teacher.
Wasn't intentional, Matt, I promise.
Thank you, Matt.
Mr. Stambusky, you mentioned how the extra review classes are helpful, that we supplemented. Is that something we should continue to do in a more formal basis in general?
I mean, I don't ever see a downside to offering extra opportunities to prepare students, right? Even if it's just a simulated testing environment, right? Where you have a 2-hour block of window where we're going to take a short extra portion of the AP exam from a prior year so you can understand the pacing and the type of reading that you have to do. I will never see a downside to that. So I would say, yeah, it is a project. It is a thing we should consider.
Will you make a recommendation to the board for us to review?
Sure.
We are currently offering the AP review sessions each quarter now, and so that we're in the process of doing that and then collecting. And we'll be sending out some information to students to sign up for these courses.
Okay, so that's new and incremental from what we used to do?
I think we were doing it much bigger than
2 or 3 years.
a couple of years now.
Right, and then we do for AP regions, multiple reviews at the end of the school year, very specific topics. But it's not mandatory for teachers to do that, but many do.
Thank you very much. All right, so we're up to our board goals update, but it's 30 already, and West Side students did suggest we try to get some sleep tonight. So I was going to recommend or suggest that we move this. We have a work session next week. That on for a little bit shorter in time, if that's okay. But yes. I mean, if we go late enough, I can just go right to the
We'll drop you off. Wait, you got sweater.
put a new hat on. All right, so then we're going to move on to committee reports. Oh, yes, all the board goals.
All the board goals.
The hiring plan.
One of our goals is to not go to midnight, so we actually.
Working on that.
Working on that goal. So, committee reports. So what is next? Policy, we have professional development.
Safety.
Audit, health, oh, wow.
Everything.
Everybody.
I'll talk about professional development. On October 7th, the Professional Development Committee, co-chaired by Ms. Bertini and Mr. Taylor, met to discuss professional development opportunities for our staff. Together, the group reviewed the district professional development plan, made updates to the 25-26 school year, and reviewed the ongoing initiatives around the district. Principals and directors had the opportunity to share initiatives and goals. The group examined the most recent staff surveys on requests for professional development. Ideas for future professional development were shared. The The next meeting will focus on categorizing the staff surveys from the past 2 years and prioritizing the professional development for the remainder of the year.
Lisa. Policy?
Yeah, policy, this will be quick. First thing, it's good to mention that we do, as the policy committee, set out the full year. It's a very active committee, so we scheduled 12 to 14 meetings for the rest of the year. Within those meetings, we have to go through certain mandatory reviews, even if no changes are recommended for certain policies like purchasing and some others. And we also have other policies that we want to tackle based on either our own or the board's view or different things that are coming up. We did have updates to 2 policies that are on tonight's agenda for a first read. One was around purchasing, and we're updating the policy to reflect change in the assistant superintendent of business, but also we're improving it because we used to refer to people who had authority to make purchasing decisions by name. Now we're referring to it by position, and those things are always reported in the July organizational meeting. The second one is we have a policy on credit card usage, which is really a control around who can and who in the district can and have and use credit cards. So we put that one in place and up for a read. So that's it for now.
Health and safety.
Yeah, I'm the new guy on the health and safety committee, but it was a pretty active meeting. And then we had audit right after, so it was just committee day. But we went through a number of the security improvements that have been planned and implemented, including the alertness pendants that all staff have available to instantly notify in the event of an emergency. We talked about the additional security cameras that have been installed around the field and the campus of the high school, including additional Wi-Fi extension. And now all the schools have completed the installation of license readers. And so we now scan vehicles that enter the campus. We also got an update about the completion of the fencing project, which you saw, and I think everybody, thank you to the building leaders, building principals who attended the meeting. We got very positive feedback about that particular piece because I think there was a lot of concern about the safety of the children without certain fencing. And also a big component of the meeting, we had law enforcement from Nassau and Suffolk County and Homeland Security details in Nassau and Suffolk. And so that was good communication, and we talked about future activities to work together with them on. Mark, did I read anything?
No, it was good. Mr. Smith, you did big ground running. Thank you. A lot of progress. We're knocking the to-do list off. 1, 2, 3, new radios, new uniforms. We're staffed, I believe, at full cameras, the radios, the gates, the signage, bringing in agencies to familiarize themselves with the school. The AEDs, we need, I think, some more, right? So we might have to, as a board, I don't know if it rises to the threshold, but we might need to have that discussion. And we have our annual fire inspection coming up. So that's to be coming up, I believe, next week. And that's it. We're going to have new signage in the hallways, make it easier for first responders. And that's it. Excellent job, everyone. Whole team's doing it.
Audit.
All we did, we went through in detail in the audit report and spent a lot of time understanding detailed items that were in there. So.
That's a presentation tonight covered.
Yeah.
And then
And one of the items is tonight we're approving the financials, right? So.
give us an update on the capital. The capital improvements and facilities.
Yes, ma'am. We are very fortunate in having had 8 members of the community apply to serve on a committee whose charter says no more than 5. We have chosen 4 people to fill those slots who, because of their extensive experience and connection with the school and their particular skills, will, I am sure, be an excellent complement to the 3 board members who are serving on the committee. And those community members are Joe Lawson, Eric Jancic, Sal Coco, and Testa.
All right, we will now continue with our first audience to visitors. Cold Spring Harbor Board of Education and Administration welcome your attendance at Board of Ed meetings. Audience to public affords residents an opportunity to address the Board of Education on both agenda and non-agenda items. Each resident is allowed to speak for 3 minutes. This is not the forum to discuss student or staff-specific issues. Please contact the district separately on these. All right, we now move to the approval of minutes on page 2. The September 9, 2025 minutes. Bill, you were absent. Can I have a first? Lisa, second. Alex, any questions? All in favor? We now move to personnel recommendations of the superintendent. We will take the leaves and resignations on page 2 through 3 as a slate. And the first, Lisa, the second, Kate, any questions? All in favor? We will take all appointments on page 3 through 11 as a slate.
Ms. Morantian, can I just recognize Ms. Bigelow, who is Mr. Nambusky's secretary, who has put in her retirement letter after many years of service in the district, so we just want to acknowledge her. She'll be retiring at the end of November.
And we have the appointment of Mr. Thomas too. Tonight.
Yes, I was going to get.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, and we would like to congratulate Mr. Thompson, who is being appointed tonight as our technology teacher at the Henry JT for everyone else.
All right, so we'll take all appointments on pages 3 through 11 as the slate. Can I have the first? Alex, second. Kate, any questions? All in favor? Item business recommendations. We will take donations, change orders, and budget transfers, claims, auditors reports on page 11 through 13 as the slate. First, Bruce, the second. Lisa, any questions? All in favor?
I just wanted to recognize Linda Gerber is donating a fish tank to our wet lab.
Yes. This was left over, but it wasn't bid on at the jury lunch last year. Thank you, not here right now. Thank you very much.
I just want to thank the Cold Spring Harbor Educational Foundation for their donations for the Science Journal Club. It's an opportunity for our students to engage with the laboratory scientists, tour some of the laboratories, and explore research journals at a higher level. So it goes into how reading informational text and extrapolating data from that information. So we really feel like it's going to add to growth of both our research program and student skills.
Questions? Comments? All in favor? We'll now take additional business matters on pages 13 to 17. first. Alex? Bill? Questions?
I have a question. The additional amount of 5832.69, so I clicked on the PDF, the document came up. No idea how to read this. Could you explain what that amount is?
Where are you? I'm sorry, I'm trying to follow along.
Number A, letter A, change orders. Roman numeral, I guess that's 7.
Did we do that in the last one?
Top of page 30.
That was the last one. So we moved on to.
Oh, we passed it.
Yep. Yeah, we passed it. Let's talk about it.
If you want me to explain it right now.
Yeah.
It's just working with that.
It says add 5832.69. So that's, it says deduct 100,000, add 15,000, add, I don't understand.
So what happened was we had, this is one of those cases where we had an allowance that we would have received back from the contractor. But there was additional work that needed to be done in the marine lab, electrical work, that totaled $15,000. We used $9,168 of the allowance, and the balance is an increase in the contract amount to Relly in the amount of $5,832.
Okay, so the allowance used is 9168.
Right, we drained the rest of the allowance that was left, 9168, and had to increase the overall contract with this contractor by 5832 in order to complete the electrical work in the marine lab.
So the full allowance that was left on that job was 9168? So that was,
That's correct.
so the original allowance was higher?
The original allowance was, I think it was 100,000, but I'm not sure.
Okay, so the original allowance was 100. It got used up down to
9168.
which wasn't and then you needed, so you need an additional 15,000.
Correct.
So, okay, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. So allowances are for unforeseen issues. When you design a project, you spec in the cost of electric, the cost of tanks, the cost of everything. So if you run and open a wall up and, there's asbestos in there, that's when the allowance kicks in. This is basically the design then was totally it was either mispriced or they didn't understand, they didn't do an original design that was, I guess, effective, right? It had to get redone.
It could have been a variety of things, including the fact that we may have asked the electrical contractor to do additional work that would have been much less expensive to have him do while he was on the job than to go out for another contract with another contractor. That could be one explanation. Another explanation could be that there were discovered conditions in the electrical work that needed to be repaired and were not contemplated in the original plans and specs. We could get more specific information for you.
That's exactly what I'm looking for, is if the original design was not complete and it had holes in it, and then they're coming back now, we need another 100,000. You know, that's a problem. If you're telling me problems arise that were unforeseeable, that's, you know, sure more sympathetic to that, but.
So I can speak to a little bit of the work that was done in there. When we looked at the racks, one of the things that we wanted to do was maximize the total number of quad outlets that were available for each of the fish tanks, but not only for the existing fish tanks that we installed, but also additional lighting and other things that we saw for future growth. One of the things about this space is that students are driving what's happening inside this research space. We wanted to make sure that we could accommodate any of the students' ideas for projects moving forward. We didn't want to limit ourselves in terms of just minimal amount of outlets that were available, and we wanted to make sure that should there be any upgrades moving forward that we could account for that. Based on the few people that have come in response to the RFP that we put out for the future work and the plumbing and the tanks, one of the things that they remarked on was the fact that we had plenty of electrical availability in this space to accommodate a lot of our needs moving forward.
And if you look at the document, it shows a lot of this stuff was completed 3 and 4 years ago. I can speak to one specifically because of my role. I was involved in technology, and it was something that was truly missed by the architect. We were, for the new science wing, there was not a connection going back to our MDF where our fiber, our network comes in. There wasn't a piece of fiber connecting to your location. It was absolutely missed by the architect. So as we're doing this, like, it had to be done. And we see on here the cost was, I just had it, about $4,000. I'm estimating the cost of the year, but that needed to be done. So that was something that was definitely missed. But most of this work, other than we just talked about with the lab, was done 3 and 4 years ago.
Okay, I mean, it says here, reconfigure staircase to the fitness center, $3,600. I don't know if
That was probably 4 years ago.
So these are, okay, these are old fixes, and some of this has the wet lab in it, you're saying?
The last part was for the wet lab.
Okay. Hey, it's so confusing.
Yeah, this is where we get confused. I thought we approved changes and then the work gets done. It sounds like the work gets done and then we get the
We had put in the Friday notes, I think it was September 8th, saying we got the quote back from the contractor. They have the 2 days off because of the holiday. The certificate by was, and I think we spoke about it. And that's, it was just,
No,
it was one of those.
if it's September, that's different. I thought you were saying it was done like a long time ago.
These other things are stuff that was completed when the fitness center was done. That was, I have to say, assume 4 years ago. I don't know. I can't say definitively, but that was, when the fitness center was done.
No fault of yours, Joe.
No.
I'm thoroughly confused by change order. So we'll take it up at a future date.
Intentional, actually.
Any other questions? So I was on, I believe, I had a first and a second for the additional business matters on page 17. Anyone have any questions on that? All right, so all in favor? We move to special education reports. We will take contracts and CSE, CPSE approval on pages 7 and page 17 as a slate. Alex, second. Lisa, any questions? All in favor? Now we move to other matters. Page 17. First. Second. Alex, any questions? All in favor? We have 2 policies on first reading. And I have a motion to read first reading first. Any questions?
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Me?
Lisa.
Any questions? All in favor? We have a resolution to walk on for this evening. And I have a motion to walk on this resolution first. Alex, second. Lisa, any questions? All in favor?
Would you like me to read the resolution for the record?
Sure.
Resolved that the Board of Education approve the proposal from Mark Design Studios Architecture, PC, in response to our RFP to serve as the school district architect effective October 15th, 2025.
Now, to move that resolution, I have it first. Alex, second. Any questions? questions? All in favor? The agenda includes financial reports on page 18. These reports are for informational purposes. No vote is necessary. Needed, Mr. Carbone will answer any questions from the Board of Education and public. Feel free to call his office. We now continue with our segment on these visitors. Anybody like to speak? Have one.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura Simon. I have 3 kiddos in the district and I'm a teacher locally moving here. I moved here about 3 years ago. I wanted to say thank you for all of you, everything that you all do this very late hour at night. I'm not going to take a long time. I just wanted to speak about a couple things. One being that I wanted to voice my concern about the lack of contract with the teachers currently and some other people and staff in the district as well. And I know before I came to the district and in the first year there was some admin turnover and some other staffing turnover, and I think I have been very pleased and very happy and supportive of my students in the district so far. And I just know as a teacher myself, sometimes it's really disheartening to be in a culture where there's that animosity between different groups. I have not felt that as a parent in the district at all, and I commend everyone for being part of that, and that I haven't felt it with my students. And I just want to ensure I'm advocating for the teachers and advocating for my students and trying to encourage a resolution to this so that it can be a more positive environment for everyone in the district. I also wanted to commend you all on being ahead of the curve with the tech stuff last year before it all came about as New York State law. This year is coming from California. You were ahead of them as well, and ahead of the district I was at, and even such stuff. I know you talked about iPhones and computers and stuff, but even at the high school junior high level, you locked down YouTube last year, or whether it was this year, and other things when, my kids would be saying that kids were then being on their Chromebooks and doing this and that, and it was like, oh, now they took that away. I was like, thank God. So thank you for all that you're doing around that. You're ahead of the curve across the country and at different districts I've been at around the district. So thank you for that. And the wet lab is phenomenal. I'm so excited to be a district that has that, and our resources being in the harbor and bringing that into their space here and being so close to the lab. So there's so many amazing things we do here, and I want to make sure that everyone feels that around the district, and that community and culture within helps encourage everyone. So that's why I'm also encouraging that the teacher contracts and other contracts come to a certain. Thank you so much.
Like to speak? So this is the second discussion section of our agenda. Open the floor to any other discussion items from members of the board. All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting first? Second, Bill. Any questions on this? All in favor? I think somebody could call Laura.
All right, turn